Okay, that was my attempt at the Exorcist theme. Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by, coming your way in the first video for the year of our yeah, the year of 2024. Yay, we made it. What's in store for this year? Time will tell. Yeah, this isn't a movie I really even knew about necessarily until, did this come out in October, I want to say, in theaters exclusively, and for a couple weeks until it came to a Peacock streaming service, coming at you to review the motion picture by the name of The Exorcist Believer. So I should start this review by saying I'm not the biggest Exorcist fan in the world. One of the most highly viewed videos on this channel is actually the review me and Matt did years and years ago, probably over 10 years at this point, of The Exorcist, the original film from the 70s. While I regard it, I didn't see it until I was probably like 23, and I got to see it. You watch the review to get my history on that. I got to see the version you've never seen in the theater. So the first time I saw the original film, I got to see it in the theater, which was cool. But if you'll know this if you're a big viewer of the channel, I'm not the biggest fan of supernatural, religious kind of horror films. I'm not a big Omen fan at all. I'd say my favorite franchise of the paranormal horror in the horror genre would be the Amityville films. Those ones I like because it's not, I don't know, it's just like this general evil versus, I don't know. The Exorcist films just got, I guess there's religious figures in the Amityville movies as well, but was never the biggest Exorcist fan. As a matter of fact, my favorite Exorcist film, although I hold the first one in very high regard, my favorite one is Exorcist 3, which I think is absolutely really, really great. Not only great in the scares department, but great in the laughs department. I really think that one of the best combination of genres is horror and comedy, and where it wasn't, Exorcist 3 isn't so much about the horrific things that are funny. It's like there's humor in it, and then there's horror in it. So I find those two things in a combination of those in Exorcist 3 really, really entertaining. Feel free to check out my Exorcist 3 review if you want to know how I feel about that. Cut to 2023, December 1st. It goes up for streaming if you're a member of Peacock, the streaming site. Yeah, so this is, Blumhouse is really putting them out, I'll tell you. This is a Blumhouse production, well, partial Blumhouse production, and the director, I'm pretty sure it's the guy, David Gordon Green. Didn't he direct the Halloween 2018 and Kills and Ends, I think? So I was kind of like, when I found out he was the director, I was like, oh, great. But honestly, going into it, I was actually impressed, and I'll just simply say, like, the first half of it, I was actually relatively impressed with, because it doesn't have a lot of, I don't know, there's no attempts at just like roll your eyes humor in the movie, and there's like, as much as I love the humor in Exorcist 3, like I was actually impressed with their no nonsense approach for the Exorcist Believer, and just like it's just like serious and done relatively well. And the main guy, I actually just liked him as a performer. I liked his character and his daughter as a performer and her character. My only complaint with the movie is it would have been nice to see maybe a little more of the two girls, just personalities before they went possessed. But time's a limitation, and this movie, in my opinion, is a lot longer than it needs to be as it is. But the beginning is 13 years, before 2023, which I think is, 2010. I can do math. So, like this main couple, this woman's pregnant near childbirth, and they're in Haiti, and the guy's a photographer, and they're doing this or that or whatever, and this woman gets a blessing for her and her baby, and right after that there's an earthquake, and she gets mortally injured in in a building trying to get out of the building during the earthquake, and it's, the guy's like, okay, we can save your wife or the baby, not both, so choose. And then cut to 13 years later, we see the daughter, so it's kind of like, oh, well, he made the choice. We just assume that was the choice he made or whatever. We may learn, I probably already gave it away, but we learn more about that later on. But, so, I mean, I don't know how, I don't really know if I have a whole hell of a lot to say about this movie, but what I will say is I like the first half more than the second half, because we just have that happen in Haiti, and the tragedy, and then 13 years later we introduce the dad and the daughter, and honestly I could have just seen, I could have just watched 90 minutes or, an hour and 45 minutes of dad and daughter just getting on with life, and while the daughter has this pain of, well, the dad and daughter have this pain of the wife that died and the mother she never knew, and just I could have just watched a movie about that, and just the daughter's her whole life has just been dealing with this mother she never knew, and goes through a box of her things and pulls out this scarf, and dad berates her a little bit later on. He's like, this is precious, and the scarf plays a tear-jerking moment later on towards the end of the film, which I'll give him props. The writing wasn't completely horrible in this movie, and I'd seen little blurbs from people online that said, God, this is just awful, whatever, and I don't know if I can say, I don't know if I can really agree with that, that it's awful. I mean, I'd say that this is probably better than Exorcist 2, so of course it's not really that difficult to be better than Exorcist 2, but I mean, for a movie in 2023, especially by David Gordon Green, to be better than Exorcist 2, that's kind of a little more of an accomplishment. So I'd probably rather watch this than Exorcist 2, so that's an achievement, I guess, of some kind. But yeah, as I was saying, I could just watch a 90-minute movie of this dad and daughter, and just the troubles of adolescence for the daughter, and never knowing her mom, and trying to retroactively learn as much about her as possible, while the dad's they're both dealing with their own grief in regards to a lost wife and or mom, and the daughter going through mom's things, and dad, that's painful for the dad. So I mean, 90-minute movie about that dynamic, and her getting on with her little playmate friend, 13-year-old schoolmate friend and stuff. I could have just seen a movie about that, but can't do that because this is The Exorcist Believer. And I want to say that, just like with the trend of Halloween 2018, this is, I should have mentioned this earlier, but I'm mentioning it now, this is that follows the trend of what's going on these days, which is this, I think, more or less the sequel to the original film kind of a thing. It's whatever it is, 50 years later. Is this the 50th anniversary? I think it might be the 50th, possibly, anniversary of The Exorcist. If not, that was either 73 or 74. So I would imagine they put this out in the 50th anniversary of Exorcist. So, 50 years later, we're going to do a sequel to The Exorcist. And it's really not so much of a sequel. I mean, I kind of like how, just like with Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween 2018, 40 years later, 50 years later, they bring the mom back from the original Exorcist. And yeah, is that kind of just a ploy and a gimmick? Yeah, kind of. I mean, she was kind of cool to see back. I had no idea she was still with us. Turns out she is, or was, at the time of the filming of this movie. Does she lend very much to the movie? Not so much. Just the fact that, oh wow, it's the actress from the, original movie. It's like bringing, the mom back for, Jaws the Revenge kind of thing. She doesn't really serve too much of a purpose, but she's there. And one thing I will say, that is really cool and kind of got me I thought they did really well, which is, I can't remember exactly when. I want to say it was halfway through the movie or something, where I don't know if it's when the Reagan's mom came into the picture in the movie. And I thought it was really cool, kind of like the second Blade Runner. Was it Blade Runner 2049 or something, where we don't see Harrison Ford until much the second half of the movie. I thought it was cool how they saved, kind of like with Ghostbusters Afterlife too, how they saved the mom from the original, Reagan's mom, for like the last, half, if or something like that. She didn't show up until halfway through or somewhere around there, so that was cool. But then I don't know if it was in conjunction with her arrival or not, but some way halfway through the movie, there was the same thing happened with the trailer as well, where they kind of tease like the theme. It starts out, whatever, like this, may not know what it is, but then the more it goes on, the more it's like, oh, you know what, they're probably building up the theme, and then till it just kind of goes full bore, like do 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 or whatever. And that part of the movie was actually cool and kind of made the hair, goosebumps a little bit. The hair rise on my back of my neck or wherever the hell the hair is, and it was laying down formally. But that was a cool part, I will say. And so the girls, go off and, they both lie to their parents. They both say that they're each going to go to the other girlfriend's house we'll just say friend's house to do homework and be back by dinner or whatever. Turns out they both lied to each of their parents, and they're just going to go to some pit in the middle of the woods, some old frickin' house basement, or just some kind of old ruins of a building or underground whatever, and go and try to do this, like, she wants the girl with the dead mom, or the mom that died at the time of her birth. She's got this just obsession, and you can't blame her. I mean, I'm not going to fault her for this, but she's had this lifelong obsession. Well, I can't say it's lifelong, but at the time of this movie, she's got this obsession with mom and contacting mom, so they want to do kind of like go out in the woods and in some pit or whatever, and bring a candle and try to basically locate mom. And then we just see that later on that when dad comes home, she's not there, and there's this for like 3 days. There's this they're missing, and then they just kind of find their way back, and they thought just only a couple hours gone by and 3 days gone by. So needless to say, they both got possessed at the same time, and it's kind of cool how two girls get possessed in this movie. Honestly, what would have kind of been cooler, in my opinion, is of course they're not going to do this because everything's about girls and women power and stuff now. But since the original movie was a possessed girl, why not change it up and have it be a possessed little boy or something, or a couple of possessed boys? Maybe that would have been cool. But whatever, I'm not knocking. They wanted to go for the same kind of look. It was the original film with the possessed girl and or girls in this case, and it was kind of cool how it was, instead of just one possessed girl, it was two and whatever. And the other family's like, super rich white family, and, they got, I've never seen this before in this century, like, or even the last century. Like, it was so pathetic. And I can only assume this house in Georgia, David Gordon Green pretty much just shoots in Georgia for some reason. They must have a great weather and or tax write-off situation, but I'm assuming this house exists for real, this house. And I just laughed because there was this exterior scene at night outside their front door, and on either sides of the front door there's, how people have a light by their front door or something. On either side of this, and this is probably how the house really is. You ready for this one? Either side of the front door there's actual gas lights. I don't know, you guys are probably way too young to know anything about, before electricity, they just pumped gas through cities, and all the street lights were gas lit, and people would have to go around and light them. And I don't know if they had to go turn them off, because they could probably just turn the gas off, but people had to go around, you'd have the gas street light lighters. And before electricity, the street lights and things were, well, not only street lights, but your interior lights and stuff were powered by gas, and when dawn came or whatever, or when you went to bed, you'd turn off the gas light and you'd light it for dusk and night and stuff. I was just like, oh my God, talk about, whoever, oh my God, it just brings, it brings tears to my eyes. Like, who would have ever thought in 2023, yeah, we're so rich and this house is huge, it's like, just, it's, We're so rich, we're not going to have electric lights by the front door. We're going to have gas lights. So, oh my God, I just, when I think about, oh my God, I'm going to have to try this, like when I'm really depressed, and just think of this movie and that house with the gas lights, not just one, because a lot of times when you got a front door, I think generally it's just one, maybe on one side of the door or something. The tears are flowing. It's like it's just, just like it never even would occur to me to have gas lights in 2023. Right when everyone, all the politicians want to take gas stoves and gas furnaces out of people's houses, you got this movie with people got, the house lights are gas. Oh my God! Every time I say it, I start tearing up. But anyway, this isn't the review of the house. I mean, it's more entertaining than. Oh my God! I thought that was so funny. But anyway, of course, the rich white family, just kind of religious. Oh, that's another thing. Because this guy's pregnant wife, got blessed and died hours later, this guy, and understandably so, is no longer religious. And I think kind of like with the movie by the name of, what the hell is it called? Corn Maze, or what the hell is it? I don't know. It's the one with the aliens. M. Night Shyamalan. God, I can't. Crop circles? Signs, that's what that's called. Kind of like that, where the Mel Gibson character at the beginning of the movie is like, whatever, anti-faith, and by the end he's back. And I think that kind of subtly happens to the dad. Not too sure that they really embellish on it that much, honestly, but I think he's like, whatever, anti-faith at the beginning of the movie for understandable reasons, and I think gets his faith back. Oh my God, must be allergies or something. Now my eyes won't dry up. Well, I don't want them to dry up, but they're still okay. It's just residual tears from the house with the front door lights that are, oh my God. So there's a lot going on here, but I mean, the stuff going on isn't very deep. Admittedly, you can have all the stuff going on you want. If it's not very deep, it's not very deep. And another little thing that's mentioned with the mother of Reagan character is that the daughter is estranged. She hasn't seen Reagan for years or whatever, and there's this kind of cool thing that happens at the very end where I kind of would I guess I might as well just say it. I kind of wish Linda Blair had been in it a little more, and what I thought would have been actually really cool at the the inevitable exorcism scene at the end is if Linda Blair would have come in and saved the day and recited the hocus pocus and turn yourself around, and that's what it's all about, and done all that stuff. The power of Santa compels you. And if she would have come in and saved the day, that would have been like kind of eye rollish and kind of cool at the same time. But she does do a cameo at the very end of the movie. I guess that's, it's kind of cool how that bit wraps up. And oh, don't let me forget to mention that throughout sometime during Reagan's mom's intervention, she gets wounded, and I guess I didn't really need to say that, but I'll say it, and kind of dramatic or whatever, but whatever. So I think maybe that'll be it for my review. The makeup, let's face it, I mean, the Exorcist makeup on the two young girls is good and very, very much harkens back to the original movie. But it's so ironic how, like 50 years later, you think with technology and stuff that they, I'm sure in 73 they thought, oh, in 2023, I mean, the movies are just going to be amazing and so much more better and things. But it's funny how, it all goes back to just generational things, and it's like they got the power of like CG and stuff at their disposal and stuff. But I mean, I still think, like, if you compare this movie to the first one, obviously there's no comparison. The thing is, I mean, it's just like they went for it. You can tell they're trying to do something, akin to the original movie. But I mean, the original movie was like instantly compelling and like compelling all the way through, whereas this one, although I liked the first half more than the second half, like it wasn't, ever. I don't think it was ever really compelling. So the first movie just like got you in all of that abstract kind of music or whatever's in the first movie. I haven't seen the first one for a while. I should rewatch it, but yeah, I mean, obviously it doesn't hold a candle to the original movie or the third film. That's a given. But what would my star rating for Exorcist or The Exorcist Believer? And the thing that I thought would have been kind of cool is because at the end of the movie there's like, I think more than one person trying to do the exorcism, and it's just like, and maybe it would have been cool to call it The Exorcists. That kind of would have been cool. But and then the believer, I mean, or believer, exorcist believer, I'm assuming the believer is like referring to the dad character or something. We're not 100%. I would imagine that's what the believer is about. I think there's interesting things that, going on there between, with the, whatever. If you're into religion and the whole theology of all that stuff, there's some stuff in there you might enjoy, but me not being being interested in any of that stuff, I just kind of just sit there while it's being said and stuff, and so there. But what would my star rating for The Exorcist Believer be? Yeah, I mean, as much as I do like the first half, well, I can't go any higher than 2 stars out of 4 stars for The Exorcist Believer. It seems like it really actually does try to do something competent, and it does feel like more of a mature kind of a competent movie than like maybe the Halloween movies do. And I appreciated the shooting in the 1:8:5 aspect ratio versus the wider. But I'm assuming he shot the Halloween movies in the wide because the original was like that, and the original, well, the first 3 I think all the Exorcists that quote, the Exorcists of the 20th century are all the 1:8:5, so it only makes sense to shoot this 1:8:5. It's really refreshing to see, so many movies do the really wide screen, and it's really nice to see just a 1:8:5 movie, because especially a movie like this, which is going to have a super limited theatrical run. I mean, most of this stuff lives at home, and all these movies that are super wide to only be viewed at home with the black bars. So it was cool that, thanks for the 1:8:5 ratio. It was a solid attempt at trying to capture like the feeling of The Exorcist and trying to redo kind of a sequel / whatever reboot of The Exorcist. I mean, this has been tried. When I was working at a movie gallery, there was it like Exorcist the Beginning or something? I don't think I ever watched it. There was a Exorcist movie that came out in the first, it was 2005 or 6 or 7, and I don't think I ever watched it because why would I even bother with that? But there have been attempts over the years to try to do an Exorcist movie, and this is just another one of them. So I guess this review went on way too long, but I mean, like 3 minutes I was talking about the front gas lights on the house, which, oh my God, I'm going to have to try to, like I say, when I'm all depressed or something, I have to try to think of those and see if that doesn't just brighten up my day. Probably not, but I guess that pretty much does it for my review of The Exorcist Believer. If you've got Peacock and see it for free, I mean, there's much worse stuff out there, but there's much better stuff out there as well. I mean, I figured since it was at no additional cost, I could see it more or less for, not for free because I'm paying for Peacock, but for no additional cost, as a caveat for having Peacock. I figured, well, since I've got Peacock, I might as well watch this, because let's face it, I had some interest, obviously, to see it for no additional cost, so I saw it and reviewed it, and now the review's over. So thanks so much for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, we'll catch you on the next video.